All right, so this is the first lecture for our Unit 4, which is Enlightenment and Revolution, and this particular topic covers the scientific revolution. All right, so we're going to look at the Enlightenment and the Revolution over the course of this class. To start off with, this is a model of, in the Middle Ages, up until the scientific revolution, what Europeans thought that the structure of the universe looked like. While you're studying that, noticing some odd little nuances in that structure, I also have a definition for you here for the first vocab word, the geocentric theory. That's the theory that the Earth is in the center of the solar system. Before we look at these people and think of them as complete fools, if you didn't have the equipment and you just looked up in the sky, it would look like that the Earth is in the center of the universe, immovable, and everything else is floating around the Earth. You can notice some of the interesting nuances here. You've got Venus in the second orbit, the moon in the first, the sun in the third. So an interesting dynamic here that they felt was the way the universe is structured. Another thing you can't tell as well from this picture, but all of their ellipses are circular, or all of their orbits are circular. All right, now the way that the place that Europeans got this theory from, a couple of different places, a couple of different sources. Source number one was the Greeks. Aristotle was the first to suggest that this was the geocentric model was the accurate structure of the universe. And then that was amplified, that was resonated and backed up by Ptolemy, who was Roman. So the Romans backed up the Greek theory that the Earth was in the center of the universe. And then the last organization to support the geocentric theory was the church. The church taught that God had placed Earth at the center of the universe and the orbits were circular because that was a perfect symbol, more representative of who God was. So this became church doctrine. So these three groups influenced how Europeans viewed their universe. All right, the period of time that we're talking about here that these sort of ideas became challenged, established theory became challenged, is a period of time known as the scientific revolution. So here's a definition for our term, scientific revolution. So this is a time when, since religious ideas that had been accepted for centuries were coming into question, people started to ask themselves, what else have we just taken without thinking about it that might not be accurate? So that sort of thinking is typical during the scientific revolution. But for definition purposes, these are developments in mathematics, physics, astronomy, biology, and chemistry that transformed the views of society about nature. All right, one of the first areas that was put into question or called into question was the structure of the universe, and the first person to do that was this thinker, Copernicus. He was the first to suggest that maybe the Earth is not at the center of the universe. In fact, he suggested that the sun was in the center of the universe. And so that is a definition for vocab word 3. Heliocentric theory is that theory that the sun is at the center of the universe. So geo meaning Earth, helio meaning sun. So sun-centered theory and Earth-centered theory of the universe. All right, Copernicus kept this to himself for fear of persecution. He didn't have his ideas published, not until he was certain he was going to die, and then he published his ideas. And he was really, and he was right, but he kept his fear of persecution from him blessing the world with his theories. All right, other scientists developed other theories about the structure of the universe. This is Kepler. And he suggested that the planets moved along ellipses, not circles. So their orbits were more like flattened circles than they were perfect circles. He also received persecution because this was like challenging church doctrine. So similar to what Luther did, even though his ideas aren't religious, because it's different than what the church was teaching, persecution. All right, and then another scientist was able to take technology and use it to help prove the guys who came before him, and that is Galileo. So his development of the telescope helped enable proof to be given to Copernicus and Kepler that their theories were correct. All right, there's various structures to the scientific method. I'm just a humble history teacher, so this is how I'm gonna summarize the scientific method. A scientist might say it differently, but I'm gonna influence, or I'm gonna emphasize these 5 methods. They can all be done in one word. So a question, research, hypothesize or hypothesis, hypotheses, experiment, and then analysis. Another version might throw in conclusion there, but I think analysis and making a conclusion of your analysis is maybe hand in hand. So question, research, hypothesis, experiment, analysis will be our 5 steps to the scientific method. All right, this scientific method was built off of, if we want to figure out how is to prove something scientifically, what is the process to go through and do that? And this became it. This was built off of philosophers' theories, and a few different people contributed to this field of thought. One of which was this guy, Francis Bacon, who philosophized that you can know if something is certain by doing experiments and seeing that pattern repeat itself over time. Another philosopher that contributed to the scientific method was Rene Descartes, and he concluded that by using math and logic, reason, that's how you're going to find out what is true about your world. So if you put the two of them together, that becomes a very essential part of the scientific method. All right, and then the most groundbreaking, influential thinker / scientist during the scientific revolution was Newton, who did not invent gravity, but he discovered that it existed. God's the one who invented gravity, but he noticed certain patterns when it comes to motion and gravity that exist in this world, and he attributed those to a creator. He was actually very godly person, and in any case, his theories deeply impacted the scientific community and scientific theory. All right, I don't have slides for these. I'm just going to have to verbally tell you in the matching section which one goes with what. I think hopefully you could figure out Celsius and Fahrenheit. So I'm going to leave those to you, but I'm going to help you with some of the other ones. These are all scientists and fields that they contributed to during their time. Some of you might need to know who this person is because you can focus your frustration at this particular individual if he's ruining your life currently. Let's start with the one at the bottom, Robert Boyle. So Robert Boyle was the founder of modern chemistry. So now you know who to be upset with if that's something that you struggle with. So Robert Boyle, founder of modern chemistry. I also have, let's get this one out of the way, Edward Jenner. He is a scientist, and despite the fact that my other class really wanted that to be A, it is not. It is F. Edward Jenner created the first smallpox vaccination by introducing a small sample of the disease to a wounded area of a person that would enable the body to develop antibodies and fight it off naturally. So that was a big deal. Smallpox was a big killer at the time. All right, where am I? Okay, Vesalius, the second one, Andreas Vesalius. He was known for his studying of the human body. So that would be A. It was kind of taboo to open up a body even if they were dead and look at it on the inside. It was considered defiling that body. So it was really hard to understand exactly how the human body worked. And that led to some very serious mistakes in how the body worked and how blood flowed through the body and how the inside of the body looked. Previous to the scientific revolution, Europeans would open up animals like pigs and assume that human anatomy was similar enough to the pigs to make a conclusion. So, Vesalius A. All right, and I think that leaves Leeuwenhoek to be the examiner of microscopic red blood cells. And in case you didn't know, Celsius is C and Fahrenheit is B. So in any case, but they both made contributions to the area of measuring temperature.